Hello and welcome back to Down the Track. Today we'll be reviewing the game between England and New Zealand. A proper performance by New Zealand, coming out dominant, finishing the game in 4 days. And this was after they had a few of them key players missing. Proper professional performance. The guys who came in performed very well. A solid performance by New Zealand. Your thoughts, Musti, on this fine performance by New Zealand?
My initial thought is that the host of Down the Track is back, Mr. Azra. It's great to see him. And what a timing, just when, the cricket is going to get really serious with the World Test Championship coming, starting. You're back and it's great to have you. And a pleasure to be with you. And my initial thoughts on the game is that man, this New Zealand team looked good. I understand that England had a key players missing and it did impact them. But again, we saw India, they missed a few players and they still beat Australia. I'm not saying everyone can do that, but I still expected something in home conditions, despite players missing a bit more competition, I felt. And New Zealand, mind you, didn't have Williamson in this game. They did not have Tim Southee, didn't have Santner. So they're missing 3 players as well. So I wouldn't say it was an even contest, but it wasn't out of England's reach. And the way New Zealand played, they dominated. England dropped catches. I think in the field, they were sloppy. Anderson and Broad, of course, they're not the same as they were before. I think they'll have to mix it up there. Both of them playing together, kind of, I'm not saying they're getting tired or anything, but, it's not, you don't have that spark. Even Mark Wood is kind of getting tired. And the reason for that, I felt, was they didn't play a spinner. You saw New Zealand, both matches, they played spinners and that gave respite to their fast bowlers. It makes a big difference. Yes, the ball might not turn as much in England, but I think this is something that India also needs to learn when they go into that final, that you need to play a spinner just to have your fast bowlers fresh. It's very important that your fast bowlers are fresh in these kind of conditions, because the ball will swing in the 60th, 70th over. And yeah, just on New Zealand, I would like to say their batting, Conway, absolute beast, double 100 and then 70, 80 odd in this game. What's his name? The young...
Young, his name is Young.
Will Young, yeah, Will Young. The young Will Young. Fantastic, man. Absolutely brilliant. He's filling in Williamson's shoes. It's very difficult. And to play in those conditions when the ball is swinging, there is movement there. I think he batted wonderfully well. And Ross Taylor, he showed his class. And New Zealand, one thing they've shown in this, that they have depth. They don't just rely on these key players. Before, New Zealand had 2-3 players that you'd watch out for. Now it's that whole team. Everyone is chipping in. Bolt was sensational. But what about Matt Henry, man? He's not getting a place in that starting 11. He came in just to give Jameson and these guys a rest, Saudi a rest. But the way he bowled was magnificent. And Wagner's also shown that his figures might not look pretty. He might not have wickets, but he does a job. And that helps the bowlers on the other end. So I think overall, from batting to bowling, this New Zealand side, they're looking very strong.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. I think a couple of things just to touch upon your points. I thought that the fact that you said about England not having a spinner, that's just silly. That's just unacceptable. The likes of Ayaz Patel, who's probably not even a full... he doesn't play that much, but he still got chipped in with a few wickets, here and there. And then the bowling depth that these guys have, the batting depth that New Zealand has, I mean, India should be worried a little bit. They are coming up against a solid side. I know that in finals New Zealand always kind of falters, but this is a completely different ball game. I think that New Zealand is going in slight favorites, in my opinion, for the World Cup, and we'll talk about that World Test Championship. But we'll talk about that later. But in terms of England, I thought, like you said, the bowling attack is fizzled out a little bit. There was no spinner, but even the batting, it's not really. We've come to know England as this batting dominant side. And the likes is just not there anymore. And for me, most importantly, is the lack of intent in the captaincy. I think that his route is just waiting for things to happen versus just trying to make things happen, which you see you see any top level captain, like the likes of what you may call it, Ian Morgan for that matter, or Kane Williamson. They try a couple of things differently, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But you have to keep trying. But I think Joe Root, with due respect to him, I think he's just waiting for things to happen. When it doesn't go in, when Plan A and Plan B doesn't work, he doesn't have a third, fourth kind of plan set or whatever, and then he's just going through the motions and waiting for things to happen. That doesn't help. So there's been an issue over there. The batting has been lackluster. There's been, I think, apart from maybe Burns, nobody else has really gone on and scored a nice century or something, just to show some kind of intent over there. And that is concerning, because that's a few batsmen. There's the likes of Dom Sibley, Lawrence, Crawley. These guys have been given a fair amount of chances, and they're not making the most of it. And that's something that the management will have to think about a little bit. And finally, of course, Joe Root's captaincy. Again, I have to come back to that. But there is something wrong there. I don't know who they will want to replace if they want to take that kind of a big step. But there's something that some thought will need to go into that, or some maybe give him some help, maybe give him some assistance. But there needs to be some kind of thought process going on behind this, and a lot of work for England to do if they want to change things around. And Test cricket is their forte, and they need to really think hard before they come back for the next series. The Ashes are coming soon, so they have to be prepared.
That's what I don't understand. Now Chris Silverwood is the head coach and he's the head selector. Now the onus is on him. It's very easy for me to rip into him, but it was his first series as both responsibilities. So I'll give him some leeway, but I don't understand this rotation policy. I really don't get it. They did it in India as well, where the World Test Championship place was on the line. And then now they're doing it again. I understand that, you're focusing on limited overs with T20 and everything, but I think Test cricket should be the pinnacle for any team. And, it's not like they're playing matches straight away now after. They have a gap until the India series. So why not play your best 11? Okay, Ben Stokes is injured. You can still play Butler. You can play Bairstow. Why are you rotating? And you made a good point there that even the other players, they still do play when these big guns come in, the likes of Ollie Pope, the likes of Sibley. These guys do come in, even Crawley and Lawrence. We've seen Lawrence, I think he batted wonderfully. He batted really well. And that's something Sibley needs to learn from. Sibley, I think he was too defensive, ultra cautious. And you could see there were 70 for 0 in the first innings. And then, but New Zealand came in. Why? Because his strike rate was like 20, 30. So they weren't scoring those runs. So after one session, New Zealand felt like it wasn't getting away from them because 2-3 wickets and suddenly they're 70 for 3 instead of 70 for 0. So I think that was one issue, like the intent over there. We saw in the first test as well, a lot of talk about that intent, very defensive. They could have gone for the runs as well. And that's something that they have to look out for. And these guys need to take responsibility. Now, Ollie Pope, I think, is a very talented batsman, but he's just not, he's not showing that dedication to stay on the pitch, that application that is needed for a Test cricketer. And I think they have to focus on the Test cricket. They have this fascination about the Ashes, right? They're going to focus on the Ashes, but if you're going to rotate players here and there, who cares? You're not going to win the Ashes like that. You have to be consistent. You need to take World Test Championship seriously. You need to take Test cricket seriously, and then you can. I'm not saying they're not taking it seriously, but this rotation is not going to work. Focusing too much on limited overs. Look, it will give them that satisfaction if they do win the T20 World Cup. But still, England is a team that needs to be there in Test cricket, and I feel their team is not that competitive right now, to be honest with you. I feel India, Australia, New Zealand are much better teams right now than England. Yes, when India come, they have their own issues in England, so I don't know what's going to happen then. But for now, I'm saying, and also at that time, all the other players will come back. Forget about those 3 players you talked about. You talked about Stokes, you talked about Bairstow, you talked about Butler. Where's Sam Curran? Where's Chris Wokes?
I have no idea. They're all playing T20. They're all part of the T20 side. I just don't understand this.
They'll all come for the India series. They might win that series. It'll be much more difficult for India, right? So you won't be able to compare those series. But then they'll beat India. But then, going to Australia, they're going to Australia after that. Then again, a change in team and everything. You have to have consistent cricket. You need to play 5 test matches in Australia. And you saw when India went there, you have injuries and stuff. So you need to have your full squad.
Yeah. I think a lot of the rotation policy has to do with COVID, but I think that I understand completely the regulations and all of that, which is great. I think that it's hats off to them that they are working so hard to.
They're playing those same players in limited overs.
Exactly. That's kind of strange. I don't know what the thinking and what the logic is behind it. I hope they have some valid reasoning behind it. But if they want to win cricket games, they need a little bit more consistency. You can't keep having changes every single game or every single series for that matter. So that doesn't help at all.
You tell me this: if New Zealand are in the World Test Championship, they had more of a right to rest players. Right. Yeah. But what did they do? They said, no, we want practice. We want to go. They rested a few players here and there, but it's subtle changes. You make subtle changes, no issues. It's not 3 players. They changed like 6, 7 players from the starting 11. And I just feel that's ridiculous, man. They have to figure something out. Otherwise, it's not going to be good for their Test cricket.
Yeah, and England's the only England, in my opinion. I think maybe Australia's a close second, but England's the only side I think that sells out their Test cricket games in terms of spectators as well.
Exactly, that atmosphere was wild, man. That atmosphere in Edgbaston was brilliant, fantastic. I haven't seen that in so long, of course, because of the lockdown. But Test cricket, to have that atmosphere, it's like you're watching a football game. There's chants going on. There's those funny COVID vaccine masks and this and that. It was crazy, but unfortunately, the team just couldn't live up to it. And I feel that there is an issue with selection, and this rotation policy kind of needs to stop, and they have to be a bit more subtle about their changes.
I agree 100%. I think some thinking definitely for England to do. New Zealand looking strong, looking confident going into the World Test Championship. I mean, without their top 4-5 players, they've done that much. So when the top guys come back in, this is going to be a side that is going to take some beating. They're going to take something to do something incredible from the Indian side to beat them. I mean,
there's three things, right? I look at. One is they've gotten used to the conditions, which is fantastic. Second thing is they've understood that they have squad depth. They don't have to rely on players. So even if they have injuries or something, they have a selection headache, which is good for them.
Yeah.
And third thing, India's weakness is swing and their strength is swing. So it's going to be very competitive. I'm not doubting India's abilities as well. I don't want to write them off because I wrote them off in the Australia series and it came back to bite me, and I was very happy that it bit me. But I'm not going to write them off. But I think this is going to be a much tougher test because not only because of the team, but also because of the conditions. If you're playing New Zealand, maybe in Australia, I would fancy India actually. But if you're playing in swinging conditions where the ball will nip around even in the 70th over, Bolt was swinging it in the 65th over, man, with the old ball. So
and this is in Southampton, man. Southampton is known for their swing. It's going to be fun to see that.
It's going to be very difficult. I think for India, we will discuss in the future, but in the coming week. But their top order will have to keep their feet moving. They'll have to be prepared because New Zealand will attack them. And we've seen their batsmen also. Now they don't only rely on Williamson and Taylor. They have Latham, they have Nichols, they have this guy Conway is absolutely killing it now, Young as well. So it's going to be difficult. It's going to be a big challenge for the bowlers as well. It's not going to be that easy. People are saying both bowling teams are brilliant, but I honestly feel they are. But I think New Zealand's batting in these conditions, maybe it might just tip.
I think New Zealand is a shade above in terms of batting. I think bowling, I kind of agree with you. I think that there is I mean, the Indian bowling unit has improved so much in the past 2-3 years. So they will probably be a like for like match in terms of their maybe even Ash probably a little bit better than Santner in terms of their spinning ability as well. But I think in terms of batting, I think that New Zealand has the edge over there, and that's probably what will decide that game.
Two things I'm worried about India's bowling is that finishing off the tail, but you're going to get really punished. And we've had this issue before. And secondly is that they're coming after a break, right? To suddenly come in. Whereas New Zealand, Bolt and Sadi, they played one match each, not too much, but they've gotten that rhythm. They know what they're doing. They played Test cricket. And India, we've seen are very slow starters. They lost that first game in Adelaide as well in Australia. So they're very slow starters. Here it's a one-off game. Best of 3, maybe I would give India an advantage, but I think because it's one-off, New Zealand already there, India slow starters, this New Zealand team is very dangerous, and I like the way the system they're playing. They're backing their spinner as well, and these guys are very nice people, but they play very aggressive cricket. The way they declared in that first Test match, they were going for a win despite one day getting washed out. So Williamson is a very aggressive captain. He looks very nice, very chilled. He is a very good guy, but his mindset is very aggressive. It's the opposite. I feel that Virat Kohli is a more defensive captain but aggressive nature, whereas Williamson is in a very chill, defensive nature but very aggressive captain. It's kind of opposite, and you're going to see this in this series. But I'm looking forward to it. And you have to respect this New Zealand team. It is India's bogey team. We will talk about it in the future, but I think if we just talk about this England series, I think they played brilliantly and they deserve to win the first game as well.
Absolutely, I'm looking forward to our analysis on the India New Zealand. I think we have to dive deep. You can see the excitement that both of us
100%.
are having. So we'll have more content coming in for that for sure.
Conway, man of the series for you?
I think so. I think a double century plus another 80. In terms of anyone else, I think everyone else was kind of chipping in. The bowlers chipped in together. There was no standout fifer or anything of the sort. So I think maybe Southee did have a fifer, but overall I thought that Conway was brilliant. I think he gave the kind of start that they need. The New Zealand side needed, and he's looking a solid player. Another gem that New Zealand has uncovered. So looking forward to what he can show us in the future as well.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's been unbelievable the way he's done it, and in the limited overs, and then the transformation to Test cricket has been fantastic. So, credit to him.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll be back soon with some more content for the World Test Championship. Looking forward to that as well. And I will give you my prediction in our content over there. My prediction's been going well, so I have to keep that going.
I just want to say, I know you didn't give a prediction for this series, but I just want to say for the first time I got my prediction right. I said 1-0 New
Yes,
Zealand.
I know you
And
did,
I said,
yes.
I said it's going to rain in one match. I was very happy with that prediction. I feel like a genius right now, but that might come crashing down in the World Test Championship. But yeah, I think going into that, it'll be interesting to get our predictions. And yeah, stay tuned, subscribe to our channel, and we'll get you the latest for the World Test Championship from Southampton.
Yep, looking forward to it.
Take care, man.